If you want to lose fat as quickly as possible, you're going to have to follow some sort of crash diet, which just means you're going to have to eat very few calories every day. Now, most people go about that in a willy-nilly kind of way. They don't really pay attention to the foods they're eating or their macronutrients, particularly their protein intake. They just make sure that they're starving. Now, this isn't ideal or recommended for a number of reasons, but there is one style of crash dieting that has been around in the body composition space for some time and which has been promoted as a smarter way of going about it, as a way to maximize fat loss and minimize muscle loss. And it's called a protein sparing modified fast, PSMF. And what it entails is eating about 15 to 30% of your total daily energy expenditure, so a massive calorie deficit, and getting mostly all of your calories from protein. So you're going to be eating a lot of protein, and then you'll have a small number of calories left over that you're supposed to use for fibrous vegetables. So the idea here is eat very few calories so you can lose a lot of fat, and eat basically nothing but protein so you can preserve muscle, and then use the vegetables to fill you up and help stave off hunger and cravings. Now, as far as exercise goes, what's normally recommended on a PSMF protocol is a couple weightlifting workouts per week, lower volume, lower intensity, no long grueling workouts. And those workouts really are just supposed to help drive muscle retention. You're obviously not going to be gaining muscle on a diet like this, and you don't have enough energy to train more than just a couple times per week and at a moderate intensity. Now, how well can this work, and who should do it and who should not do it? Well, to the first point, it can work quite well, actually. If you do what I just described, and I'll share a couple more tips as well, you can lose anywhere from, let's say, 2 to 6 pounds of fat per week while preserving most of your muscle. You may lose a little bit of muscle, of actual lean muscle tissue, not just water or glycogen that would register as a loss of lean mass on like a DEXA scan, but is not actual lean mass, not actual lean muscle tissue. Now, there's a price to pay for those results. You are not going to feel good on a PSMF program. And unlike normal dieting, where the first week or two is a bit uncomfortable, but then you acclimate to it, and if you're doing things right, it's not too much of a struggle going forward unless you're really lean, or unless you're lean wanting to get really lean. With PSMF, the first week is hard, and the second week is harder, and the third week is even harder, and the longer you try to maintain it, the harder it gets and the worse you feel. And that brings me then to who should and shouldn't do it. So PSMF is best suited to people who have quite a bit of fat to lose. So let's say guys over 15% body fat and women over 25% body fat, and who want to just kickstart the results. They understand that this isn't a long-term weight loss solution. It is a quick fix that can just give you a nice jolt of motivation because you're going to see fast results. And when you are in the beginning of your cut and you have a lot of fat to lose, that can be motivating. It can be nice to see a couple pounds of fat loss in the first week, and a couple more in the next week, and a couple more in the next week. Another benefit of starting a cut, especially a longer cut, with a PSMF type approach is ultimately that means that you're going to finish your cut sooner. You're going to lose the amount of fat you want to lose a bit faster, and then you can get back to eating at maintenance, or maybe even moving into a slight surplus if you want to focus on muscle gain. And so by that, I'm obviously implying who PSMF is not for, but I'm just going to state it clearly. It is not for people who are lean, wanting to get really lean, and of course preserve muscle. So take someone like me. I'm probably around 9% body fat right now, 9 or 10%. And if I wanted to get down to 6 or 7% for a photo shoot or something like that, it would not be a good idea for me to even start with PSMF, because when you are lean, it is much easier to lose muscle. You simply cannot sustain as large of a calorie deficit without losing muscle. And so then, if you're a guy around 10% body fat and you want to get into single digits, do not use PSMF. And if you are a woman and you are around 20% body fat and you want to get beneath that, do not use PSMF. Go with a traditional approach to your calorie deficit, something around 300 to 500 calories per day, a deficit of 300 to 500 calories per day, plenty of protein, plenty of carbs, et cetera, et cetera. Another thing to reiterate is if you are going to use PSMF, do it in the beginning of a cut. Don't do it at the end of a cut because it is going to be extra grueling if you were to do that. And depending where you're at the end of that cut, it may actually accelerate muscle loss. So again, the best time to do it is in the beginning when you have quite a bit of fat to lose. Okay, and just to quickly summarize how to do PSMF, your calories should be at anywhere from 15 to 30% of your total daily energy expenditure. It really depends on who you listen to. I think if you are around 20 to 25%, just take it in the middle, then that is fine. So let's just say a calorie deficit of 75 to 80%. And then as for your macros, about 80% of those calories should be coming from protein. So you can just work that out simply. 1 gram of protein contains about 4 calories. For most people, this is going to be between 1 and 2 grams of protein per pound of lean body mass per day. And then you get the remaining of your calories from fibrous vegetables. Oh, and one other thing regarding protein intake I should mention is you want that protein to be as low calorie as possible, meaning as lean as possible. So that protein needs to come with as little carbohydrate and fat as possible. Now, if you're wondering then, where's the dietary fat? There is no dietary fat really when you're following a PSMF protocol. And that's because dietary fat is very rich in calories, and we are trying to maximally restrict calories while keeping protein intake high, and that means we have to sacrifice dietary fat. And that just further highlights how unsustainable this type of diet is. No, it is not good to eat very little to no dietary fat, but if you're only doing it for a couple weeks, which should be the duration, you shouldn't be doing PSMF for more than 3 or 4 weeks in one go. So most people, it's 2 to 4 weeks, and you can do that. You can have a rather extreme diet of very little or no dietary fat, for example, for a few weeks and come out the other end of it with no harm. You're not going to feel good while you do it, but you're not going to mess your body up. Now, also, as I mentioned, as for your exercise goes, you want to focus on weightlifting. So a couple weightlifting workouts per week, 2 to 3. You could do whatever split you want. Doesn't really matter. If it's 3, you could do a push-pull legs, or you could just do like an upper, lower, upper, or the other way around if you want to focus a bit more on your lower body. Or you could just do 3 full body workouts. Because we are so not interested in performance, and we are definitely not going to be gaining muscle while eating so few calories, we're really just looking to remind our body that it has muscle to preserve, and we're trying to minimize muscle loss. Now, it's also recommended to do cardio in addition to the weightlifting if you're going to be following a PSMF approach, because you can just lose even more fat. If you're really willing to push it, you could lose up to 6 to 8 pounds of fat in 1 week. Now, that's for someone who has a lot of fat to lose, but still, that's impressive, and that's very motivating. That said, because you are going to be eating so little and you are not going to have very much energy, don't try to do high intensity interval training or even moderate intensity steady state cardio, in my opinion. If you're going to add cardio, just add something like walking, or it could be on a bike, I guess, but the bicycle equivalent of walking. Low intensity, just burn, if you can burn an extra, let's say about an hour of walking for most people is 300 to 400 calories burned. So if you could get in 2 to 4 hours of walking, or again, the equivalent of walking in some other form of cardio, then I think that's reasonable. And lastly, I should mention that while following PSMF, I do think it's smart to take a multivitamin supplement, a good multivitamin supplement, because your body is not going to be eating much in the way of nutrition, as well as an omega-3 fatty acid supplement for the same reason. Some people recommend taking magnesium and calcium as well, specifically, and I think that's smart. But if you are taking a good multivitamin, like mine, which is called Triumph, for example, it has magnesium. And if you are eating calcium-rich protein, so let's say you're having some dairy or just dairy-derived products like whey, then you probably don't need to supplement with calcium. Oh, and that brings me to one last tip, which is try to get most of your calories from whole foods. Don't get into the habit of just living off powders because it's going to make it even harder. You're going to be even hungrier if you do that. It's okay to include some protein powder in your meal plan when you are following PSMF, but I would not recommend getting 40, 50, 60% of your daily calories from powders. All right, well, that's it for PSMF. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I hope you liked the video, and if you did, please do give it a like and drop a comment down below letting me know what you thought. And if you really liked it, then of course subscribe to my channel, and YouTube will notify you when the next video goes live if you click that red subscribe button over there and then the bell next to it. All right, well, thank you, and I hope to see you in the next video.